Blizzard conditions in central Montana. Residents facing another big winter storm after being inundated already over the last couple of weeks. Plus, no more self-checkout. Winco, the latest store to get rid of the cashierless kiosks. And in our latest Montana Ag Report,
grizzly bears and Montana ranchers like Teresa Lane have a very complex relationship. And I'll explain to you coming up how a recent federal delisting rule of the grizzly bear may not simplify that relationship anytime soon.
The 4:30 news starts right now. Well, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. I'm Russ Riesinger. Mother Nature is once again wreaking havoc in central Montana, bringing active blizzard warnings to both Fergus and Judith Basin counties, as well as the Highwood and Little Belt Mountains, with whiteout conditions being reported. Check this out. This is video sent to us this afternoon by an MTN viewer in Lewistown, with visibility limited to just a couple of feet due to all that blowing snow. Earlier today, Lewistown residents were being told to stay home and not venture outdoors. That warning has since been lifted, but treacherous conditions remain, with most highways in and around Lewistown, Eddie's Corner, and Harlowton recommended for emergency travel only. High-profile vehicles like semis are being told to stay off the road due to strong winds. Farther to the west, the Little Belt Mountains are also being hit hard yet again by this system. MTN's Tommy Lynch ventured to the small town of Nyhart to check it out.
It's blizzard conditions up here at Nyhart, but for the residents of Nyhart and the people that work here, snow is nothing but a good thing.
Blizzard conditions hit the small town of Nyhart on Wednesday. For some people, this weather would be enough to keep them isolated, but that's not the case here.
Oh no, we love having the snow.
At the town's one inconvenience store, General Manager Dan Eckert knows that snow means business.
The business increases because of the ski hill and all the snowmobilers that we have that come to town.
And what are the snow enthusiasts buying?
A lot more beer sales, and then chips and candy bars and snacks is our biggest sellers during this time of the year.
The lodging in town is packed, from Airbnbs to the local motel.
Overall, for the weekend, the motels sold out Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night.
Janice Smith-Boggery owns and manages Bob's Bar, Dining and Motel in Nyhart. And if you couldn't tell from the ski poles with the pool cues, she's thrilled with the weather.
This is the weather that our sports enthusiasts dream of.
And whether you come in for beer or hot chocolate, the locals are happy to have you.
When we have snow like this, it's really exciting. People are excited.
Nyhart, a town built for bad weather. In Nyhart, I'm Tommy Lynch, MTN News.
Blizzard-like conditions are also halting travel for a second straight day through northern Wyoming. I-90 between Sheridan and the Montana line is under no unnecessary travel advisory. Drifting snow is making roadways dangerous with reduced visibility and icing conditions. Schools in Sheridan also released kids early today, and school was canceled in Wyola, Montana, right along the state line there. For the second straight day, high winds shut down the lifts at Red Lodge Mountain. You can see trees swaying and the blowing snow on these webcam images from this afternoon. Red Lodge Mountain posting on Facebook at about 10 a.m. this morning saying gusts of up to 50 miles per hour caused them to cancel operations for the remainder of the day. Red Lodge also closed lifts Tuesday morning. Tough stretch after the mountain received over a foot of snow in the last week. Meteorologist Ed McIntosh joins us now to see if these conditions will continue.
Current temperatures across eastern Montana and northern Wyoming into the 20s, but the big story, the areas of wind and snow. This was from around Eddie's Corner and then also from Aberdeen Hill, I-90 heading south toward Sheridan. If it's hard to make anything out, that's kind of the problem. It's hard to make anything out here this afternoon as visibility in much of the region has been down to, in some cases, a quarter mile at times. So we'll look for the hazardous travel to continue, especially to the northeast and south, the Billings. To the west, we're still dealing with winds in the Livingston foothills. That will continue off and on over the course of the next week. But we have another chance of some snow showers as well, including around the Billings area. We'll break all the forecast details down for you in a few minutes.
If you've been to Winco in West Billings over the last few days, you've likely noticed a big change. The grocery store has eliminated its self-checkout machines. That space now taken up by merchandise stalls. Winco's decision follows a nationwide trend over the last year to do away with self-checkout, which rose in popularity during the COVID-19 pandemic. Many stores cite high theft rates as well as poor performance reviews for reasons to get rid of the cashier-less machines. They also say the technology didn't really save money, often costing more in upkeep than they brought in. Well, some items commonly found in stores with self-checkouts could soon be more expensive to ship here. President Trump indicated a new tariff on Chinese products would be implemented on February 1st. Joe St. George explains how much more goods from China may soon be costing you, as well as expected tariffs from Mexico and Canada.
President Donald Trump has vowed to lower prices for all Americans. And on day one of his presidency, he signed an executive order directing his cabinet agencies to do just that. But he also likes the idea of tariffs. So the question is, why does the president want them, and how might tariffs impact you?
We're talking about a tariff of 10% on China based on the fact that they're sending fentanyl to Mexico and Canada.
How soon on those tariffs?
Probably February 1st is the date we're looking at.
President Trump hinting that new tariffs could not just hit Chinese-made products in early February, but he has previously indicated that new 25% tariffs could hit products from Canada and Mexico at that time as well. So will these costs be passed on to you? Last year, senior leaders at Walmart said that they would most likely have to raise prices on certain goods if tariffs get levied. But White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said during the campaign that money and investment returning to America from overseas as a result of these penalizing tariffs would actually help the American economy. Leaders in China, Canada, and Mexico have all criticized the possible tariffs, with officials in Beijing saying trade wars have, quote, no winners. Still, though, President Donald Trump seems to be forging ahead with his plan for new tariffs, and he's not ruling out additional tariffs on other countries as well. In fact, on Inauguration Day, President Trump took time to acknowledge President McKinley for his use of tariffs in the late 1800s. He even vowed to rename America's highest peak, Mount McKinley, in Alaska. Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
Trump is also taking aim at federal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Federal employees involved in DEI efforts within the government are officially on leave and could be out of a job by next week. Trump's decree directs DEI employees be placed on paid administrative leave effective immediately, and a memo instructs departments to come up with a plan to eliminate those positions by January 31st. Agency heads were also told to take down social media accounts of any DEI offices. The order also instructed them to ask employees if they're aware of any efforts to disguise these programs by using coded or vague language or descriptions. Trump has referred to these programs as discrimination and insists on restoring strictly merit-based hiring. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service recently denied Montana and Wyoming's petitions to delist the grizzly bear from the endangered species list. Reactions were strong from both sides of this divisive issue. One delisting opponent, former U.S. Fish and Wildlife bear recovery specialist Chris Servine, spoke with us before the delisting decision came down and said more time is needed to make sure that grizzlies are fully recovered.
We've come a long way. We've done really well with these bears. We need to complete the job and not walk away from it when we're not done. It's like building a house and maybe you put the frame up and it starts to look like a house, but then you quit and say, well, we're done. That's essentially what would happen if we delist grizzly bears right now. We're not finished.
Delisting proponents feel grizzlies are recovered and management of the bear should be turned over to the states. MTN's Madeline Heath spoke with one Augusta rancher who thinks grizzlies and ranching are both integral parts of Montana's way of life, but clarity is needed for the future of coexistence.
Ranchers face many challenges like Montana's harsh winters and managing conflicts with predators like the grizzly bear. In a recent ruling from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, they have pumped the brakes on removing the grizzly bear from the endangered species list, and hopes of clarity for ranchers has been put on the back burner.
We will fight to protect our way of life. And grizzly bears are fighting for their way of life too.
And Teresa Lane, a sixth-generation Augusta native, is fighting for her ranch. She's always known there were a lot of grizzly bears around.
Grizzlies are, I feel, a very important part of the ecosystem. As long as they are the good bears.
Teresa says she had 9 proven grizzly kills in the past decade, and many other livestock she believes were killed by bears.
I go over to check the cows, and right over here, right by this tree, there was another dead calf.
The grizzly was killed by Wildlife Services. She feels something needs to be done, similar to the removal of the gray wolf from the endangered species list. The ranch had wolf kills in the past, but saw improvement after their delisting, something Teresa believes would also happen if grizzlies were delisted, which is why she's concerned with the U.S. Fish, Wildlife, and Parks decision to push delisting aside.
The thing that I am most worried about is there are so many people going to be involved in it. Who's going to be the real boss?
Lane and her neighbors work together to protect their livestock.
The key communication is let your neighbors know. If they lose a calf, they usually call you, or if you lose one, you call them.
She says losing one animal in the span of a year may not seem that detrimental, but that loss can change the whole herd and is a large financial burden, even with the reimbursement from the Livestock Loss Board.
If it kills one of those calves, I just lost all my breeding from that cow that I can go back years on her. And you just lost all those genetics.
But more than losing money or the legacy of the herd, she says this is about losing what she has worked so hard to leave for her kids.
My cows are very important to me, and ironically, I've installed that in my kids too. Yep, they love their cows.
Reporting in Augusta, I'm Madeline Heath, MTN News.